p.m., 5:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S., Iran sent 15 missiles from Iran into Iraq at 3 strategic locations. We're going to get into that now. We're going to talk about it. DutyRon, a retired NYPD detective, going live, talking about this breaking news story that ultimately has a lasting effect on all of us. Hello, Judy. Hello, R.A. R.S. Garcia, T.B. Thank you for joining. Just Believe. Meglo, my first member, coming on in. Thank you for joining, Meglo. Appreciate you being in here. And then Red Lotus follows it up. She is a member, proud member. And Matt Sully, thank you so much. Another member joining in on the broadcast. Judy, thank you for coming in. Guys, we are living in a tumultuous time, and, you know, none of us like war. And 2 nights ago, I spoke to you guys about this very, very situation, and my broadcast was labeled, "Are we at war with Iran?" And sure enough, here we are tonight, 5:30 Eastern Time here in the U.S., we have a missile strike. Joyce Bernston, thank you so much for joining. That was a lot of fun on your broadcast. Hello, Happy Lux. Good to see you. Guys, please, Mimi, welcome in. Tammy, share it out. Red Like Wine is here. Share this out onto your social. Share it onto Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you are a member of the DutyRon YouTube video share group on Facebook, please post it in there. One of you guys, if you can do that for me, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you to all my mods and all my good friends in here. Let's not get too political on this. I just want to talk about the facts, and then I'm going to end the broadcast. So let me just share it out onto my social media. Let me share it in 2 seconds. It'll take me about 2. I have 3 videos I want to show you, breaking. If any of you are tuning in from outside of the country, what we have going on is a airstrike that was targeted directly at a U.S. Shared Air Force base, 3 different locations inside of Iraq, in response to us taking out the evil tyrant terrorists on Friday. So good to see you. B-Lady Apiary, thank you so much for joining. Hello, Chaser, good evening. Adventure Roads, my brother from another mother, hello, good to see you. Diane Stone checking in, and I'm going to share. Guys, talk amongst yourselves for a second as I share the broadcast. And if you can do that, I greatly appreciate that while we're waiting. I have some, like I said, some interesting footage to show you guys. I'll show you a aerial of the Air Force base that was struck. At least one. I have an aerial. Hello, Gretchen. Good to see you, Judy. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate you being in here. DutyRon. Hello, DutyRon. Isn't this something else? It is. It's insanity. Now, hello, Darlene. Good to see you. Sandy A7. Thank you so much for joining. I am sporting my Blue Line apparel. This is supporting our police. As I always say on all my broadcasts, support your local police, support your local your law enforcement and your military. This is how I do it. I purchase 9 Line apparel and Thin Blue Line apparel through my online vendors. So anytime you see any of that stuff, please go and purchase if you can. Okay, so I'm going to share with you one video clip, and then I will come right back. Let me just cue this up for you guys, and then we'll get it ready to go. These are definitely troubling times that we're living in right now. It definitely is troubling times. So I'm going to play the first one. Okay, this is a video from yesterday. I'm going to play this video from yesterday. This is President Trump warning cultural sites could be targeted if Iran retaliates. So this is from yesterday. Okay, here we go, guys. I'm going to back it up. I know there's no sound. Just give me a second.
To exact revenge, that's the word they're On the minds of so many Americans this morning is, are we going to war with Iran? Let's go to Washington now, and ABC News contributor Colonel Steve
Again, this is from yesterday. This is setting up
official.
what
Steve,
we're
good
going to
morning
talk
to
about.
you. I'd like to ask you, to the best of your ability, to take us inside the minds of the Iranians this morning as they plot their next move. They may feel they need to exact revenge. That's the word they're using, revenge. But I imagine they're also aware that if they do something that triggers an all-out war, they're very likely to lose.
That's true, Dan. The U.S. has changed the terms of the relationship with Iran by saying that Iran will be held accountable for anything that happens. They've taken away the use of surrogates. So no longer can the Iranians use Hezbollah. They can't use Hamas. They can't use their Iranian militia proxies. We can't see tankers blowing up in the middle of the night in the Persian Gulf. The U.S. holds Iran accountable, which means that anything Iran does is going to be met with a strong conventional military response. So that has to go into their calculus, and it's a very different one than just a few days ago.
Critics of the president, we heard this from Bernie Sanders, they've said that this drone strike was an unwise escalation of tensions with Iran. Others, however, are saying that this might actually be a de-escalation, a disproportionate response that actually convinces the Iranians to stop all of these provocations. What's your view?
That it could go to either extreme. Dan, there are real problems in Iran. There are protests in the street. Thousands of protesters have been killed by Iranian security forces. The Iranian regime may be looking for some way to deflect that anger away from the regime and onto the U.S., so they may pick a bigger fight. On the other hand, if you remember back in the late 80s, the so-called tanker war, the shoot-down of the Iranian aircraft, the Iranians took a punch then, and they were quiet for years. So there is hope that this is a punch that will be taken for what it was, a defensive measure, and that the Iranians may actually back down and be less provocative in the future.
I want to give you a chance to respond to one more criticism of the president, where we just heard it from Joe Biden, is that there may not be some larger strategy here associated with the drone strike. But actually, you and I were talking over email. You think actually there may be a strategy at work that has to do with getting Iran out of Iraq.
Yeah, the U.S. is sort of calling the bluff of Iraqi politicians, saying, are you with the Iranians or are you with the Iraqi people here? Again, Iraq is coming apart at the seams, and this is a chance for the U.S. to push Iran to the side politically as a new government is formed. If the U.S. can do that, then Iranian influence in western Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, all those places where they have malign influence, may be on the wane. It's a new possibility. It's a new policy. But given the state of politics in Iraq, it has a chance.
All we know is things are much more uncertain.
Okay, folks. So this was from yesterday, and again, these were reporters that were just speculating. Now let's go to what's happening here today. And here we are 24 hours later.
Continuing our breaking coverage, national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin with an update from the Pentagon. Anything new, Jennifer?
Well, Brett, right now we can report that just moments ago, these were either tactical ballistic missiles or cruise missiles that were fired at multiple locations, I'm told, from a senior U.S. military source.
This was just several hours ago, 3 hours.
And told me that these missiles were being fired from Iranian territory at these U.S. bases. One of the bases that was targeted was Al-Assad Air Base in western Iraq, Anbar province. That is a base where most U.S. Troops are based. Iraqis are also based on that in western Iraq at this base. But right now we are hearing that these were either short-range cruise missiles or short-range ballistic missiles. We don't have more details, but they were coming in from multiple locations. We do know that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has taken responsibility for tonight's attack. We are still getting an assessment as to whether it is ongoing or whether it is over at this point. Again, the details are just coming in as we speak. Brett?
Okay, White House press secretary saying, quote, we are aware of the reports of attacks on U.S. facilities in Iraq. The president has been briefed and is monitoring the situation.
Let me just add something in here. The president and all of the cabinet they are not at the White House. They are not there. So this is a clear indicator that there is going to be some type of answer to this, because if the president and if the United States was not going to retaliate in regards to this missile strike, 15 cruise-type missiles were launched at 3 strategic locations within Iraq at U.S. coalition shared bases. And President Trump made it very clear on many different occasions, including today, that if Iran retaliated, 52 targets would be hit, strategic targets throughout Iran. And I would suspect, and I'm not saying I hope this happens, but I'm just telling you that in my opinion, I feel that we're going to see some significant response due to the fact that I've been around this quite a long time, and I know when there's no response, if there was, presidential speech to the nation, I would say, well, it's going to be calm and quiet for a little time, but there was nothing. And that means that they're in the war room, and they're in the war room and they are discussing the next move. So, and that should be very shortly. And that's in my opinion.
Closely consulting with his national security team. Meantime, Iran state TV is saying that Tehran launched tens of surface-to-surface missiles at Iraq's Al-Assad air base housing U.S. troops. As we get more information from the ground,
message
this
agreed,
was expected,
soul for music,
Jennifer,
and welcome in.
There were efforts to shore up some of those facilities ahead of this moment as the mourning for General Soleimani was coming to an end, right?
Absolutely. What you've seen in recent days is they have tried to beef up not only force protection, but also move some U.S. military personnel from outposts onto these larger bases so that they could protect them. We know that NATO, at least 2 NATO members, England and also Germany, had pulled hundreds of NATO troops out of Iraq. They were concerned about force protection.
I did see that, Tammy.
We heard from the Defense Secretary Mark Esper today that the U.S. is not leaving Iraq. And it's very important that in my conversations with this U.S. military source, I said, is the U.S. pulling out? And he said, no, defending, meaning defending these bases that were coming under attack. As you mentioned, there was intelligence. There was increased chatter tonight. And during the day today, the Pentagon here was prepared. You heard Mark Esper at the podium here at the Pentagon say that they did expect this retaliation. They did expect that the proxies of Iran would be firing, would be trying to target American targets inside Iraq. But what is unusual tonight is the fact that these are missiles that were fired from Iranian territory at American bases inside Iraq.
Okay, I'm going to play a soundbite. This is from the Iranian foreign minister talking about what the response might look like, and also the president today.
We will respond proportionately, not disproportionately, because we are committed to law. We are law-abiding people. We're not lawless like President Trump.
If Iran does anything that they shouldn't be doing, they're going to be suffering the consequences, and very strongly.
Okay, that's a pretty strong message. The leader of Iran stating that they're peaceful people. I beg to differ with that. Without going into details, if you do a little research and you see what's going on inside of Iran, I'm not saying the people of Iran are bad people, but I'm saying the government is not doing things as a peaceful people. So let's continue with this.
So that's the question, is I was trying to get with Congressman Waltz, is do we have
inside Iraq, but what is unusual bases inside Iraq.
Okay, I'm going to play a soundbite. This is from
I just want you guys to hear this again.
Foreign minister talking about what the response might look like, and also the president today.
Hi, Kim.
We will respond proportionately, not disproportionately, because we are committed to law. We are law-abiding people. We're not lawless like President Trump.
If Iran does anything that they shouldn't be doing, they're going to be suffering the consequences, and very strongly.
So that's the question, is I was trying to get with Congressman Waltz, is do we have any sense of what the response may be?
Well, I think what we are seeing here tonight at the Pentagon is that there are meetings behind closed doors. There's a skeletal staff here because of the snow situation here in Washington. They closed the federal government. Most of the Pentagon parking lot is empty because most people went home, but the top leaders stayed. They had a late afternoon meeting, and at one point it looked as though this earlier intelligence suggesting there was going to be attack, that things had calmed down, but then that's when we got reports that the missiles had been fired. In terms of response, remember, the U.S. has 5,000 troops there. They have a very significant Air Force presence. They just sent 6 B-52s out to the region. You have the Bataan, USS Bataan Marines en route to the Middle East. They had sent the 82nd Airborne from Fort Bragg to Kuwait.
Okay, folks. So, yes, I agree. Nobody should be happy about this. I don't condone war. I don't like it. I don't like it for many, many reasons. I don't like it because our troops, the men and women who are sent over there, are in danger and they're putting their lives on the line. I do feel that 600 American troops were killed by Iran. This is a response from our president defending the death of 600 American troops. Think about that, people. Before you go and draw conclusions, before we put our opinions in front of 600 bodies, 600 men and women, people's children, people's cousins, people's brothers, people's sisters, 600, line up 600 people or put them in a room, and that's what Iran is responsible for. So before we all start saying things like, or getting ahead of ourselves, look at what was lost here. And this is a situation that I don't like, but at the end of the day, how much do you let go? How much do you let go? And that's where you that's where you have to continue the conversation. That's where you have to continue the conversation.
Some of those troops were moving into Baghdad to help to protect the embassy there. Remember, this is one of the largest embassies the U.S. has in the world, a $650 million embassy. All of those facilities have to be protected. And so the focus right now is on defending, but certainly there will be reaction in terms of targeting those missiles and the point of origin of those missiles.
Right. Jennifer Griffin live at the Pentagon.
So I have one more clip I'd like you guys to see. Here's a map of Iran. Okay, so Baghdad is here. I'm going to zoom this in. So here is Iran, just so you guys can get a good idea of what we're dealing with here. Iran is here, and the missile strikes came from somewhere within this area here, right where I'm circling the mouse. And they were targeted here and in Erbil up in northern Iraq, Baghdad, Erbil, and Kabul. So it's a neighboring country, and cruise missiles or 15. That's a lot. I did not hear that, B-Lady Apiary. I did not hear that. So this is just, I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of Iran. All right, here's another report. I'll just play this quickly for you guys. And these are older reports.
This is a CBS News special report. I'm Norah O'Donnell in Washington. There are reports tonight that Iran has launched multiple missiles at Iraq's Al-Assad air base that is northwest of Baghdad, and that base houses U.S. troops there. This attack is believed to be in retaliation for the U.S. drone strike in Baghdad last week that killed Iran's top general. David Martin is at the Pentagon with the very latest. And David, I understand that the president is monitoring this situation. He has been briefed. What do we know about the severity and the impact of these attacks?
Well, first, Nora, a U.S. military official confirms to CBS News that a rocket attack was launched against the Al-Assad air base northwest of Baghdad a short time ago. One administration official says there are no reports of casualties. About 6 rockets were launched. There are also apparently an attack on the U.S. consulate in Erbil, in northern Iraq. In that case, 2 rockets were supposedly launched, and there are no reports of casualties in that attack either.
Yes, no reports of casualty as of yet.
Iranian state television announced that its Revolutionary Guards were conducting a missile attack on Al-Assad air base in retaliation for the drone strike which killed Qasem Soleimani. So Iran, the government of Iran, appears to be taking credit
Melita, this is
for this attack.
CBS, by the way.
If that is correct, then this was not just another rocket attack by a Iranian-backed militia in Iraq, which may or may not have been acting on its own. This, according to that announcement by Iranian state TV, would be an attack ordered by the government of
This looks
Iran
like footage of the missiles in flight. It looks like.
In fact, and that's an important, right, and that's an important point, David, that you point out, because some of these rocket attacks have been carried out by proxy forces in the past, but we are now hearing from the IRGC that their aerospace unit launched this attack with tens of ballistic missiles on the Al-Assad military base in the name of
Josh,
martyr
I'll look
General
that up in a second.
Soleimani. So they are claiming responsibility, and of course this follows the news reporting that the Ayatollah, Iran's supreme leader, has said that he wanted Iran's forces to carry out such an attack.
They're using the word missiles, which is significant, because they have missiles which have sufficient range to reach Baghdad and west of Baghdad from Iranian territory. We don't have this confirmed yet, but it is entirely possible that this missile attack was actually launched from Iranian territory, not just ordered from Iranian territory.
We know for sure that it was launched from Iranian territory. So this is, like I said, this is a little bit older report. It's a couple of hours old. I don't think RV kids, I don't think any of us wants war. But at the end of the day, we have to, you can only take so much. You can only take so much. So I'm going to be searching for additional information. I'm going to search on Twitter for anything that's breaking at this time. I should be live for another 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes here.
The next big question, of course, is what will the American response be? And that remains to be seen.
And that is the frightening scenario that presents itself tonight. Not only the health of our U.S. service members in Iraq. There are some 5,000 serving in Iraq, a number of diplomats as well. We are told the president has been briefed on this situation. Earlier today, the president in the Oval Office said that the U.S. will fight back, will retaliate. The Pentagon also saying today in a briefing with their defense secretary that the U.S. is prepared for such an attack. I want to bring in Holly Williams because she is in Iraq tonight, in Baghdad, which is, how far would you say, Holly, from this airbase?
Yeah, Nora, that base is about 100 miles northwest of here. And as you were saying, rocket attacks on Iraqi bases and U.S. bases here in this country are fairly common, generally carried out by militia groups with backing from Iran. But this is, if those Iranian state media reports are true, is qualitatively different. I think for a lot of Iraqis, this really is the nightmare scenario. We were speaking with the Iraqi Prime Minister's military spokesman today, General Abdul Karim Khalaf, and he said his fear was that Iraq will become a battlefield, a battleground for a proxy war between Iran and the U.S. And when you look at it, that does now seem to have come to pass.
Thank you, Ron, for the super chat.
With the assassination of Baghdad Street,
I know that was a typo, I'm sure.
And now with this apparent missile attack on a base that houses some of the 5,000 U.S. troops that are here in Iraq.
And the significance of the al-Assad air base, why the Iranians may have chosen this air base, Holly, if you would. I mean, we know that this is the base that President Trump visited in December 2018. Vice President Pence was just there in November. It's a sprawling base that the U.S. has spent hundreds of millions of dollars helping to develop, correct?
Well, I think that's exactly it. It's a big base.
You're welcome,
it's an
Sandra.
important base. It's a base that the U.S. has spent an enormous amount of money on, and it's somewhere where American troops are based. And for all of those reasons, it was probably an attractive target for the Iranians.
All right,
Casey,
Holly
that
Williams
was
in Baghdad.
Trevor. I know that you would. Hold on a second.
News,
I know you're
we are
being
learning
defensive,
the president,
and I appreciate that. But Casey, actually, that's a true statement. They do chant that regularly, and they've been doing that for many, many years. I know you didn't mean any harm by it, and Trevor, I know you meant well. You had good intentions there, but let's not time her out again. That was a pretty accurate statement.
Is following these developments from inside the White House. Weijia Zhang is at the White House, and Weijia, is the president, I imagine, gathered with his national security team, and what comes next?
Nora, that's precisely what he is doing right now. He is consulting with his team, and that is the question, because earlier today he certainly did not mince any words, and he couldn't make it more clear that he was prepared to launch another attack if he deemed it necessary, because officials were bracing and they knew that this was a real possibility.
Welcome in, Mark.
And certainly the game plan does not begin now. They've already been drawing it because they knew
Marie, they're part of the coalition.
The uproar that was
UK is part of the coalition.
In Iran
United
and
Nations.
throughout the Middle East, that they were expecting something to happen. So now the extent of the retaliation is the question.
It's not about what was attacked. We have a coalition, guys. So just so you know, when there's an act of war, which clearly this was an act of war, the United Nations General Assembly meets every year here in New York, and there is a coalition of allies, the UK, Italy, Canada, Great Britain, the UK, obviously one and the same. This will not just be something that we're in alone with. Israel, as you know, they will be involved as well, because Iran is threatening them as well.
And that is certainly what Democrats on Capitol Hill are questioning right now, too.
I'll be on that in a minute.
It's important to note that they were already extremely skeptical and questioning whether that
Welcome
strike
inside
on
that.
Soleimani
Thank you so
was
much for being a member.
justified in the first
Welcome.
place. And this week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is planning to issue a vote to limit the president's military actions on Iran. We know that Vice President Mike Pence has briefed Pelosi on this attack, and she will no doubt be sharing some information with Democrats as they try to decide how to proceed with whatever President Trump comes out and says he is prepared to do. But again, we heard from him, we heard from other members of his cabinet, because they really wanted to send the message, Nora, that they were ready to fight back if Iran were to do something.
Right, you mentioned that. The president saying today that if Iran does anything that they shouldn't be doing, they're going to be suffering the consequences, and very strongly. Could this include, Weijia, attacks against Iran's cultural sites?
Well, that is what he vowed earlier. He even put it in writing, and it said on Twitter that he was targeting 52 sites in Iran, which included cultural ones. And so there was a lot of pushback from both sides, from both parties, because that would be considered.
Okay, B Lady Aprieri says, DutyRon, I thought someone had to be killed before they would take action against Iran. 600 troops, 600 military personnel have been killed by Iran. And when you fire 15 ballistic missiles at a U.S. shared coalition base, that's good enough for me. And I would have to say, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but I'd have to say there's got to be some casualties there. We're not getting information right now because it's in a different country and it's going to dribble in. But I guarantee you when you wake up tomorrow, you're going to hear about some casualties. You can't fire 15 ballistic missiles at a base at numerous targets and not have any type of casualties. So prayers to all of the people that are affected, any of the troops that we lost or any Iraqi troops that were lost. So it is what it is. As far as the Boeing 737, again, this broadcast is about the missile attack from Iran in Iraq. I will check into that. And Duty Blue, if you could send me some stuff on Twitter, on a DM, I will take it. Yeah, it's definitely an act of war. I mean, you can't spell it out any more perfect. So I hope that clarified that. B Lady Apiary.
A war crime under international law. Well, today, President Trump apparently found that out, and he walked it back, saying, quote, if that is what the law is, then I like to obey the law. And so perhaps when he tweeted that out, he wasn't aware of that because, his advisors and other cabinet members were actually scrambling to try to defend what the president was saying because it is against international law. So at this point, we don't know what he's considering. But again, he has been thinking about this, mulling over it for days.
All right, Weijia, thank you. And to that point, let's return to the Pentagon because David Martin is there and has been talking to his sources all day. The defense secretary today that they have increased their force protection postures, that they are prepared. And of course, David, the U.S. military always has contingency plans in place, correct?
Correct, but let me read you a statement we just got from the Secretary of Defense. At approximately 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, Iran launched more than a dozen ballistic missiles against U.S. military and coalition forces in Iraq. It is clear, this is important, that these missiles were launched from Iran and targeted at least 2 Iraqi military bases hosting U.S. military and coalition personnel at Al-Assad, that's west of Baghdad, and Erbil, which is
Andre, that's a good question. I don't know. I'll look into it. I'll definitely look into that.
Battle damage assessment yet. This statement makes no reference to American casualties. And it talks about the possibility of a response. So that's what's on the table, Nora.
All right, David Martin mentioning that news from the Secretary of Defense and the Pentagon that Iran has now targeted at least 2 Iraqi military bases hosting U.S. military and coalition personnel at both Al-Assad and Erbil. This has been a dramatic escalation in what many feared might happen. So
again, folks, right there was a complete recap. 5:30 p.m. on the East Coast here in the U.S. 3 installations, 3 military installations with coalition forces, not just American forces. It was Iraqi troops there, and it's unknown at this time if there were any other coalition forces there. They struck them with 15 ballistic missiles fired from within Iran into Iraq. Welcome in Premier Hell. Thank you so much for fixing my mic situation. So this is the situation at hand right now. President Trump made it very clear that if Iran retaliated for us taking out the terrorist, vicious, very bad person on Friday, if they were to take any retaliatory action, President's words, I'm going to show you his tweets. There would be 52 strategic targets within Iran attacked simultaneously. We have an Air Force that is capable of doing that. And, this is the calm before the storm. You're not hearing anything from the White House. As far as I know, President Trump and his staff are not at the White House. Now, these reporters are saying that they're not there because of snow. There's not a lot of snow on the ground. They're not there because they're in the war room. They're in the war room and they're making strategic plans right now. So we could wake up tomorrow or sometime during the day and hear some additional information. I pray for my troops. I pray for the people in Iraq and in that region for safety. And I hope that this doesn't escalate into something more. Listen, 2 nights ago, I was live and I spoke about, if you look at my replay, the question of the title of the broadcast was a question. Are we at war with Iran? I think we have the answer to that question, ladies and gentlemen, right now. I do think we have a definitive answer to that question tonight. It is now 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So just about 6 hours, 5.5, 6 hours ago, Iraq, our U.S. troops were attacked in Iraq from Iran. And this is where we're at. This is where we're at, folks.
Our coverage will continue on our 24-hour streaming network, CBSN. You can also...
All right, one more quick one, and then we'll get back into the chat, and I'm going to show you some tweets here. All right, before I let this play, I want to show you guys. This is a map, and it's going to show where. I'll just let it go. I already showed you guys this.
The Pentagon says that at 5:30 Eastern Time today, Iran, and I'm quoting from this statement, Iran launched more than a dozen ballistic missiles against U.S. military and coalition forces in Iraq. It is clear that these missiles were launched from Iran and targeted at least 2 Iraqi military bases hosting U.S. military and coalition personnel at Al-Assad and Erbil. So let's go back a minute.
Correct, Lisa.
This statement tells us that ballistic missiles were launched against American forces and Iraqis, but against American forces from launch points inside Iran. This means a significant uptick in what the Iranians have been doing. They have been supporting a number of so-called militia groups that have fired rockets and artillery that is relatively small. These are likely short to medium range ballistic missiles. We'll have to find out. The only way the Pentagon would really know that these are ballistic missiles at this point would be because they have the electronic intelligence, they have the telemetry, the radar tracks. There are a number of systems inside inside Iraq that would be able to track these incoming ballistic missiles.
Thank you for joining.
So, going back, it is hard to see how President Trump would not respond to this. There are no reports yet of, I'm just going on, we have no specific information yet on any casualties, killed or wounded. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but they say in this statement that they are working on the assessment of any battle damage. But the really significant point here is that Iran, from inside Iran, more than a dozen ballistic missiles were launched against the U.S. military and coalition.
I heard something, help us understand it. U.S. intel was watching, saw the missiles come out of the garrison in Iran being put on launchers, readied for fire. Why doesn't the U.S. go at them then, before they launch them? What are the questions?
Oh, I don't know. And I think that's an important thing for anybody.
I'm going to stop this because this is just speculation and stuff like that. So let me go into Twitter. Hi, guys. First, let me just say hello to everybody. If you're new and you're just joining, please hit the subscribe button. Right here is my, actually the subscribe is over here, but this is my social, all one word, DutyRon. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all one word, DutyRon. Welcome into all of my Patreon supporters and all of my new members. This channel now has memberships, and it is right next to the subscribe button. So if you see a little sign that says join, just click on that join and it will show you a video, a small video. It'll be me, yours truly, speaking to you. And I'll go over some of the benefits of becoming a member. And it's not for everybody. If you choose not to, nothing's changed on the channel. We'll still do things like this that we always do. We cover breaking news. I am a retired New York City police detective. I did 20 plus years in the New York City Police Department. Discover for me. Thank you for joining. Tammy, thank you so much for coming in. We have no confirmation of that, and we're not going to speak about that here. I understand, and I appreciate you giving me that. Ann Hicks, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. Crispy, welcome in. If you're new, let me know where you're watching, your city, your state, your country, so we can all say hello and give you a warm welcome. Everybody here is very friendly. All the DutyRon family, we'll welcome you with open arms. We have a lot of great people in the chat and a lot of really, really wonderful moderators who will make sure you're safe here on the broadcast. I am sporting my blue line.
To the DutyRon family.
Oh, Regina Smith, welcome to the DutyRon family. That was me. That was a pre-recorded message. Thanks to Joshua H and Premier Hell. Those are my two tech guys, but Joshua H is an intricate part of this whole program. He helped me put this whole membership thing together, and he spent many hours with me. And thank you so much, Foo Frick, for subscribing. There's a subscription right over there. So thank you for subscribing. Ralph is a fat trucker teddy bear, and I love him. He's a great guy. So there's Ralph's Trucking.
Subscribing.
Thank you so much for subscribing. I love that. Thank you, Casimir Curios. I think I botched that name. So guys, let's look at Twitter. Let's look at Twitter and see what's happening. Everyone go subscribe to Premier Hell. He's right there in the chat. Let me pull up my Twitter feed and then we'll go from there. Let's see what's happening. I'm going to look at the NYPD because I know we're on high alert here. The NYPD is definitely on high alert. So I'm going to do NYPD counterterrorism. Okay, there's the NYPD counterterrorism unit. Let's see what they got to say. Nothing. I'm going to show this as soon as I get it, as soon as something comes up. There are no specific and credible threats. All right, let me show you guys this. I'm scrolling the counterterrorism's Twitter feed. This is for NYPD guys. So right here it says counterterrorism hotline. If you see something, say something. We're closely monitoring the events in the Middle East. This is 3 hours ago from NYPD counterterrorism. Here's the counterterrorism shield. It's the this is the police department shield on the left, and the counterterrorism patch that's proudly worn on all the members of the counterterrorism unit is right there to the right. It's got the bald eagle with the American flag and the World Trade Center in the back. And so they're on the case. We're definitely on a high alert in the New York City area. There are no specific or credible threats to New York City. The NYPD continues to have an increased deployment and has adjusted resources across the city and out of an abundance of caution. So that was 3 hours ago from the NYPD counterterrorism. Let me do a search for plane down. Where was it? In Iran? Was it in Iran or Iraq? Plane down. Where was that, guys? Can someone tell me about that? Hello, Mel. Thanks for joining. Kathy from Texas, thank you so much for coming in. Jojo, it's great to see you. I got to log off. Thanks, Ron and the mods. Jojo, good to see you. Stephanie, don't panic. I see you've been getting a little panicked. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Let's just try to remain calm, and we'll see what happens. Where was the plane allegedly down? What in Tehran? Okay, thank you. Let's see what comes up on Twitter. Nothing. That's good. Oh, I spelled plane wrong. Okay. Unconfirmed from Bill Melglin. He's a verified Twitter account. I don't even know who he is. Unconfirmed video from verified journalist account, potentially showing a Ukraine plane that went down near Tehran. 180 people on board, judging by the explosion at the end. I tragically can't see how anyone could survive. I'm not going to show that. Let me just go past here. A large number of people die in a stampede. Did you guys hear that there was a stampede at Soleimani's funeral? A bunch of people were killed in a stampede at the funeral? That's crazy. All right, so this is a grainy video of a plane allegedly going down in Tehran. I don't know. I'm not sure if we're not gonna go on this, guys. Let's see, CNN breaking. Maybe someone shot down a plane with some Ukrainian airplane crash in Tehran. Just shot that. I'm just reading some Twitter posts. All right, let's stay on topic here. I'm gonna back out of it. I'm gonna back out of this. Let's see.
More than a dozen ballistic missiles from inside Iranian territory at bases that house American personnel here in Iraq. The U.S. military says that 2 bases were targeted.
All right.
Western Iraq, about 200 miles from the Iranian border.
We've seen enough of that. I don't want to overdo this. Okay, so basically, what we know is that we're definitely, this is a definite bad situation at hand. I'd have to say that it's a safe assumption to say that we are at war with Iran. It's official. It's official. 5:30 p.m. Sasmarie, thank you so much for joining. Great to see you here in the broadcast. So it has been going on for a long time with Iran. We haven't had a very great relationship with them, and all of our past administrations, the past presidents here have basically sidestepped Iran for a long time. So at the end of the day, at 5:30 p.m., Iran, from inside Iran, they launched 15 ballistic missiles to 3 different locations within. Thank you so much, James, for subscribing to the channel. Iran launched 15 missiles, ballistic missiles, to 3 separate locations. Modifiers, thank you so much for being in here. Obviously in retaliation for us taking out the Iranian terrorist, over 1 million people came out to his funeral. So a lot of people within Iran like this terrorist. So it just goes to show you that there is a lot of support for this bad guy. And all of Parliament in Iran, I don't know if anybody saw it. I could play the video for you here, but yesterday the Parliament got together in Iran, and we're all, these are the politicians in suit and tie chanting "Death to America." Did anybody here see that? By a show of hands, by a 1 in the chat, has anybody seen that footage? I'll play it for you. I'll find it and play it if you haven't seen it. But they all got together and chanted "Death to America." Death to America. Anybody see that? I did. I saw it. I saw it. I saw that. It was not good. All right, guys. So we are live. If you want to stay in the chat, just please chat in American. Chat English so we can understand it. Nobody here is typing in any other language, so nobody's going to understand what you say. Even if you say in something derogatory, nobody's going to understand it. And if it's okay, all right, there we go. That's done. So let's see. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. 2 seconds, guys. Okay, this is what I wanted to do. I want to get my friend Mahid in here. So I'm going to share it on my WhatsApp group, which goes all into all my friends in Saudi Arabia. So I want to get some of my Saudi Arabia friends in here. I want to ask them. I want to ask some of my Saudi Arabia people what they think of Iran. I would be curious to know that, you know, what my Saudi Arabia friends think of Iran. I would be curious to see what they think of that. But we'll see. We'll see if anybody joins. I just shared to a couple of hundred of my friends. Don't worry about it. It happens. We'll just try to keep that to a minimum because she's a good friend of mine. She'll be back in 300 seconds. So DutyRon, slow the chat. I have it on slow. Let me see if I can make it slower. I have it on every 60 seconds. So let me see if I can do something here. Hold on a second. I can probably change it right now. I'm only going to be live another 10 minutes, 10 more minutes. I want to know what they see going on, Ron. I want to know what they see going on. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me take care of the chat. I have it at 60 seconds. Oh, I only have it at 30. I'll make it 60. Okay. Now the chat slowed down to 60 seconds, every 60 seconds. So there we go. All right. Let me see what's new. Hold on a second. All right. I'm going to look at breaking news in Iran. 25 minutes ago, Iran missile attack against U.S. bases. 1 hour. All is well. Trump tweets after U.S. target. Okay, so Trump's last tweet was all is well. Let's just take a peek at this. Hold on, guys.
How many troops are in the region and how exposed are American military members as well as Iraqi to Iranian retaliation?
Hold on a second. All right. Anyways, guys, I say this to us all. What we need to do is educate ourselves, keep yourself updated on what is going on. I feel that tomorrow morning we will definitely have a better grip of what's going on. I unfortunately feel like our president was pretty straightforward. He was pretty straightforward about what was going to happen if they retaliated. So, at the end of the day, folks, it is
subscribing.
It is terrible to hear of United States going to war, but when you're attacked, thank you so much for subscribing, Vicky. Thank you. When you hear of our country going to war, or any country for that matter, because now when you think about it, the coalition is going to come into effect here. This isn't going to be a one-hit wonder, so to speak. This isn't going to just be, okay, we're going to retaliate. It's going to be a back and forth thing. And unfortunately, this is a situation that is very volatile. You don't know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. War is a very fluid situation, and it could snowball into something really big. Hello from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining. Michelle the Great says we will be okay. That's the kind of consensus that I take. I feel like we will be okay. Let me just say this. Listen, we have to support our troops, and I say this time and time again. These are the men and women who put their lives on the line for our freedoms, to defend our country, to defend our allies, to provide us with the freedoms that we have on a daily basis. So at the end of the day, folks, I say it all the time. Support your local law enforcement, support your military. They're the first front line. And look what's happening here now. We have 4,000 troops that are deployed. I watched an Instagram post where the troops were going forward and saying goodbye to their families. And it was heartbreaking for me to see these young kids, basically they're 18 to 25, going off to a place where they don't know what's going to happen. So we do have our military is very strong. We have our Air Force, we have our Navy, we have our Army, and we have the Marines. And all of the branches of service are going to be put into place. Joey Brooklyn, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. So all of these branches of the military will be in effect. They may not all be deployed at once, but they will be behind the scenes doing what they can, lending their expertise to whatever strategic plan is put into place. And because President Trump right now and all of the cabinet is quiet, don't think for 1 second that they are home sleeping. They are in the war room doing their strategic planning. So that is all going to go on all night long here. Not many are going to get sleep. I'll tell you that right now. So for those of you who are joining, I will play one more clip for you guys. Sophia, thank you so much. Thank you to our host. I appreciate that, Sophia Howard. Thank you so much. I did get your email and I did respond to it. So I'm going to, in the best interest of the new people that are joining, I'll just replay a couple of clips that I played in the beginning, and then we'll wrap it up at the 1 hour mark. So I got another, thank you for the super chat. And there's the NYPD police cruiser. So I'm going to queue up one of the better reports that I played for you earlier for the people who are jumping in. And here is our president. Here's the president with a message from yesterday. This is from yesterday.
As the body of Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, assassinated by a U.S. drone strike in Iraq, returned home today for burial, the U.S. and Iran are now playing a dangerous game of chicken. Iranian lawmakers back in session
this is what I was telling you about.
Death to America, the body of
Hold
Iran's
on.
top
Let me
general,
get this back to the
Qasem
beginning.
Soleimani, assassinated by a U.S. drone strike in Iraq,
God damn it.
returned home today for burial. The U.S. and Iran are now playing a dangerous game of chicken. Iranian lawmakers back in session shouted death to America in parliament. Military commanders there threatened that Iran has already picked 35 U.S. drone strike in Iraq, returned home. As the body of Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, assassinated by a U.S. drone strike in Iraq, returned home today for burial. The U.S. and Iran.
Thank you, Michelle, for becoming a member. Yay. Thank you, Michelle.
Iranian lawmakers back.
This is what I was telling you about. Okay, so these are Iranian lawmakers in their parliament. These are Iranian lawmakers in parliament chanting in their language, death to America. I don't know what more you guys need to see to know that these people hate the United States. They hate America. And they hate Israel. They hate, there's a lot of hate coming out of Iran, unfortunately. And I don't doubt that there are some good people there. There's no question. There are some good people in Iran. But unfortunately, this is what their government is portraying. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. I'm going to back it up again to the beginning so you guys can see this.
As the body of Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, assassinated by a U.S. drone strike in Iraq, returned home today for burial. The U.S. and Iran are now playing a dangerous game
burning
of
American
chicken.
flags.
Iranian lawmakers back in session shouted death to America in parliament. Military commanders there threatened that Iran has already picked 35 American targets should Iran decide to pull the trigger. President Trump answered with a string of angry tweets, writing, "Let this serve as a warning."
Look at this tweet from the president. Hundreds of Iranian protesters. He was already attacking our embassy. Hundreds of Iranian protesters. He was already attacking our embassy and preparing for additional hits in other locations. Iran has been nothing but problems for many years. That's true. That is true. And some would argue for almost 40 years. Let this serve as a warning. This is yesterday from President Trump. Let this serve as a warning. Yes, exactly, Sass Marie. Let this serve as a warning that if Iran strikes any Americans or American assets, they did that tonight. We have 52. It's going to continue.
That if Iran strikes any Americans or American assets, Iran itself will be hit very fast and very.
We have targeted 52 Iranian sites representing the 52 American hostages taken by Iran many years ago, some at a very high level and important to Iran and the Iranian culture. And those targets and Iran itself will be hit very fast and very hard. The U.S. wants no more threats.
Hard. Supporters say it's deterrence, but there are risks to baiting. Will be hit very fast and very hard. Supporters, Americans or American assets, Iran itself will be hit very fast and very hard. Supporters say it's deterrence, but there are risks to baiting a wounded enemy. General Qasem Soleimani was extraordinarily popular, and not just in Iran. He ran and supported a network of militia groups, including Lebanon's Hezbollah, which is powerful enough that it held its own in a month-long open war with Israel in 2006.
The Hezbollah is no joke. And that's where these guys were wrapped into. Hello, Batman. Good to see you. Welcome in HGINB_BatmanP in the building. Say hello to the missus for me, please.
Iran can also count on Shia militias in Iraq who fought against and killed and supported a network of militia groups, including
I want to back this up.
Hezbollah, which is powerful enough that it held its own in a month-long. Its deterrence, but there are risks to baiting a wounded enemy. General Qasem Soleimani was extraordinarily popular, and not just in Iran. He ran and supported a network of militia groups,
this guy was evil.
Lebanon's Hezbollah, which is powerful enough that it held its own in a month-long open war with Israel in 2006. Iran can also count on Shia militias in Iraq who fought against and killed hundreds of U.S. troops in Iraq after the 2003 invasion. In a conventional war, the United States outguns Iran overwhelmingly, and hundreds of U.S. troops in Iraq after the 2003 invasion. In a conventional war.
Now there's the power, the superpower of the United States. We have many, many aircraft carriers just like that in the Gulf. We have them in the Persian Gulf. We have them in all over in the strategic areas. We literally have dozens and dozens of huge aircraft carriers just as this that are ready to be deployed if need be. So I have every confidence in our military and in the United States and our strategic defense system. Our STAR program, the Star Wars program that was started by President Reagan, I believe, has been updated over the years to be technologically advanced. And I have to say to myself, you know, this is a time where I pray that that system works. And I pray that it works good, because if it doesn't, then we have something to worry about. Kyle Childress, thank you so much. Respect right back to you. So, yeah, Tammy, there, like I said, there's many good people inside of Iran, no doubt. Nassau County can beat Iran. All right, Joey, there we go, my brother. Good to see you. Everybody follow Joey Brooklyn.
The United States outguns Iran overwhelmingly. And on Sunday, more troops from Fort Bragg packed up and shipped out for the region. But Iran doesn't like to fight conventional wars. It uses guerrilla tactics and often hides its role. And with the U.S. and Iran now...
There you go. There's an 18-wheeler in the streets of Iran. There's an 18-wheeler in the streets of Iran that says, "Down with the USA." I don't know how much more we need to see of this to be convinced that these people do not like us. So it is unfortunate that we're in this position, but we do have a president, like him or not, we have a president who doesn't take nothing, from anybody. He doesn't stand for nonsense. And as much as we want to poo-poo him and say this and say that about him, this is what you're up against. And if we had a weak government, if we had a weak president right now, these people would be walking all over us. So it's unfortunate, but this is the situation at hand. This is the situation at hand. We'll lose a lot more than your brother. We'll lose a lot of lives here, and I don't want anything to happen to your brother or anybody's brother for that matter. But at the end of the day, folks, if that doesn't work, it's a little bit more than just one person. We're talking about mass casualties here. So, but I don't believe that will happen. I think I have confidence in the United States. Tani Lee, good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Openly trading threats of war. It wouldn't take much to start one. Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general killed by a U.S. drone strike ordered by President Trump, was buried this morning in his hometown. Iranian state TV reports dozens of people were killed and dozens more injured in a stampede that broke out at the funeral. Amid the crushing sea of mourners, the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard making explicit threats, saying, "We tell our enemies that we will retaliate, but if they take another action, we will set ablaze the places that they like and are passionate about." President Trump has offered up threats of his own, saying if Iran does retaliate, the U.S. response could be disproportionate, with strikes inside Iran, even against cultural sites. But his own defense secretary directly contradicted the president, acknowledging the laws of war prohibit attacks on iconic cultural heritage. The UN Secretary General says he hasn't seen the world.
Let's just relax in the chat, guys. Stop getting so... Hold on a second. Let me pause this. Guys, we don't need to be fighting against each other in the chat. We're technically at war here. Let's not take this opportunity to fight amongst ourselves. So if you have strong opinions, try to hold it to yourself. Don't get into a bashing session in between each other in the chat. Let's all act adult-like here. Let's watch what's going on and let's learn from each other. We need to be together now. We need to stand together. So let's not do this. Okay, guys? What I'm seeing in the chat, I'm not really happy about. So please just bite your tongue and hang out and stay if you want. If you can't hang out and play nice, then please leave and come back another time. That's all I'm going to say. All right? That's all. Nobody should have to get timed out, and nobody should be arguing amongst themselves. Just respect each other's opinions, just as I do. Respect me and my chat, and let's watch this news. Let's watch what's going on and learn from each other and have a conversation about it instead of arguing amongst each other. All right, let's reset. Let's take a deep breath, and let's try to be good human beings here. Our country is at war, for Christ's sake. Let's stop fucking around and arguing with each other. All right. So if you respect me and you like my channel, let's just keep it cool. Let's just keep it calm and cool. Nobody's pointing any fingers, Lisa, at anybody. All right. So let's continue to listen. This is a good report here.
This century. And this
will set ablaze the places that they like.
I'm going to start this over.
About. Trump was buried this. Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general killed by a U.S. drone strike ordered by President Trump, was buried this morning.
There you go. It's all good. That's an okay
state
comment.
TV reports dozens of people were killed and dozens more injured in a stampede that broke out at the funeral.
It's all good, Michael.
Amid the crushing sea of mourners, the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard making explicit threats, saying, We tell our enemies that we will retaliate, but if
Amen
they take
to that.
another action,
Prayers to
we
the
will
troops.
set ablaze the places that they like and are passionate about. President Trump has offered up threats of his own, saying if Iran does retaliate, the U.S. response could be disproportionate, with strikes inside Iran. Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general killed by a U.S. even against cultural sites.
So this is a strong message that was sent. And if, yeah, exactly. I got you, S. Justice. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. So even if President Trump is kind of, I feel this tweet, you know, a lot of times he says things that are a little bit extreme. I feel that there will be a reaction to this by our military, but what he's saying here is extreme. You know, there'll be strikes perhaps in disproportionate manner. Such legal notice is not required, but is given nevertheless. This is just a war of tweets here, back and forth.
But his own defense secretary directly contradicted the president, acknowledging the laws of war prohibit attacks on iconic cultural heritage. The UN Secretary General says he hasn't seen the world so full of risk.
Geopolitical tensions are at their highest level this century, and this turbulence is escalating.
Overnight, the Department of Homeland Security issued a general warning that Iran could respond with cyber attacks, improvised bombs, drones, attacks on civilians, or use one of its armed proxies, both on the U.S. or American interests around the globe. Nothing specific, but a clear expression of concern. The U.S. is sending in several thousand more troops to the region as reinforcements. In Baghdad, troops are hunkering down, suspending training missions, and creating some confusion. The Pentagon last night scrambled to correct a letter that strongly suggested all U.S. forces would be leaving Iraq for onward movement.
You're welcome, Mimi. My pleasure.
Defense officials said it was poorly worded and a mistake, saying only a few hundred trainers and administrative personnel are leaving Baghdad for safer areas, mainly in Kuwait.
And Richard, perhaps surprising news out of Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu, a close ally of the president, and his reaction to the killing of General Soleimani.
So Netanyahu has long called for action to be taken against Iran, but so far Israel has been very quiet, and there are numerous reports coming out of Israel this morning.
Yeah, what I made, Marie, good question. Good question. What do you interpret disproportionate to mean? I mean, yeah, extensive. Like what he was saying there is no matter what you do to us, what we do back to you is going to be 100 times worse. Basically, that's what I read from that. Hate is definitely cancer. I agree with you, Lisa, 1111. Thank you for that word. Hate is definitely cancerous. It is not anything that does any good. And that's why I spread peace and positivity. I've seen hate throughout 20 plus years in the police department. I saw a lot of hate towards us from the communities that we served, and I still serve day in and day out. I still went to work every day when people would say F the police and spit on the ground and throw bowling balls off roofs at us, throw air conditioners, throw rocks and bottles at us as we approached buildings, but we still went every day and served them. So at the end of the day, hate will consume you. There's a couple of songs where that lyric is in it. Those lyrics are in a lot of songs. Hate will consume you. So don't let it consume you.
Morning that Netanyahu told his security cabinet that Israel had nothing to do with this action, that it was an American action taken alone, and that Israel does not want to get dragged into it. Savannah?
All right, Richard Engel in the region for us. Thank you.
President Trump this morning justifying his decision to order a military strike that killed Iran's top general, arguing Soleimani was the #1 terrorist in the world.
Well, this should have been done for the last 15 to 20 years. We had a shot at it, and we took him out. And we're a lot safer now because of it.
But many Democrats remain unconvinced, including House Intelligence Committee Chairman
I'm
Adam
shutting this
Schiff.
off because
I'm not at all confident that this was the right decision.
This can start a political nightmare here. All right, guys. I think we covered this enough. Let me get back on to let me reel it in here. All right. Again, So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being in here. I got to get up at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow. So I'm going to send you guys off with a message of peace and positivity. Let's pray for our troops. Let's say, God bless America. God bless our troops and our nation. God bless the world. We want world peace, and we just want to, we just want this to be resolved. We already took our action. Now we have to go with the flow and see what's happening here. If the Iranians continue to attack our assets, then this is going to be a back and forth thing. So again, folks, I want to say thank you to my Patreon supporters, my channel membership folks who joined. I want to say thank you for trusting me and joining my channel. And thank you to everyone who follows me right here at DutyRon on all social media. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. One word, DutyRon, right there. And sign up for my DutyRon YouTube video share group. I hope that tomorrow brings a better result, but we're going to say prayers for our troops, prayers for the frontline men and women who are out there fighting the battle for us, so we can enjoy our freedoms here at home. Much love and respect to my moderators. Joey Brooklyn is like family. Red Like Wine, Joshua H., Red Lotus, Irish Detective down in Florida, one of my fellow co-workers. He is an NYPD retired detective. If you want to follow somebody just like me, go follow Retired Irish Detective. He's a great, great friend of mine, and he is a brother in blue. So thank you to Elizabeth F., Katie F., Junk Food Junkie, Michelle Vogel, thank you for becoming a member. Emily Flolita is going to always be recognized as the very first member of the DutyRon family. Emily Flolita, thank you for being the first one to join the membership. I appreciate you doing that. Appreciate all of my people, Regina Smith, Sophia Howard, all the great ones in here, Julie M. I hope you guys are enjoying the exclusive content that I put up in the members only community chat room that we have, the community posts that I do privately for you guys, only for the members. So thank you, guys. I hope that you're enjoying it. S Justice Dallas PD, DPD in the house. Thank you for your service, S Justice, another brother or sister in blue. All right, guys, I'm going to get going. Much love and respect. The green, Katie, is channel membership. If you look down at the bottom where it says subscribe, there's a membership where you can join and become a member of the DutyRon family. So that's what the green is. Those are members. Judy Metcalf, thank you so much for being in here. Guys, again, just remember, our country is at war. Let's not fight amongst each other. If you're a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative, we all bleed the same color. When you get a cut on your finger, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or something in between, your finger bleeds the same color. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. We're human beings, okay? Always reel that in and keep that into focus. Your brother and sister that's next to you, your fellow American, your fellow countrymen, wherever you live, wherever your country is, that's who you got to lock arms with and stick by. In times of need like this, we need to all stick together. And that's the message I want to send out to you guys. Let's all stick together. Let's love one another. Let's respect each other's opinions. Let's not bicker and argue like little babies, like we're in high school. If somebody says something that you don't like, you're in a chat room in a free application. I'm giving you basically a free broadcast. What sense does it make for you to argue with somebody on the internet? Let's think about it, guys. Let's use our heads. We're all smarter than that. Okay? So love and respect from my house to yours. I wish you all a good evening, and I'll talk to you on the next broadcast. I will be live tomorrow night doing a follow-up on this. Casey, much love and respect. Thank you, guys. Good night. United we stand. I love it. United we stand, brother. Peace.